that's not good.
What's wrong?
We're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. Sorry for the false start right there. The camera started up before we were really ready for it. But either way, we are here and ready to talk about New Japan
are you ready?
Pro Wrestling.
Do it right now. Let's do it. Just like we planned.
Seasoned professionals, I tell you. There it goes. Man, that was perfect. So we already have some folks here. We have USVA guy. Hey, how you doing, man? Glad I didn't get to say hello to you in Vegas. I was looking forward to that. Brad, I was wondering if someone was going to come up to me. Brad, you're out there. Glad to see you.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style with Steven Conway and Jeremy Finestone. We are the professionals behind Fight Game Media's New Japan Pro Wrestling channel. Just as we always have a seamless open, we just managed to completely blow this one apart. We have done it.
There it is. All right. I feel like it's a rite of passage now. We've had one that just completely clustered. But yeah, we're okay. We got this together. And I think it's because, here's what I'm going to use as the excuse. 6 shows to cover this week. Goodness, what a ton of New Japan Pro Wrestling to watch. Some of it I got to watch live. I was out there at Fighting Spirit Unleashed in Las Vegas. We can talk a little bit about that. Of course, we're going to run down that show. And then Super Junior Tag League, lots to talk about there.
I got bad news for you, Steven. I did not rank my top 40 matches in order of this week, even though it was high on my list of priorities to cover in ranking all of these matches, top 40.
Well, we'll just try to get to that another week. Then maybe we can get to the top 40 things. But instead, I think what we'll do is we're going to go down these things basically in chronological order. We'll start on Saturday, which there was a show both in Tag League and in Las Vegas Saturday. We'll start with Vegas and then go into that. So does that sound good to you, bud?
Hey, man, let's stop at the top of the card. You were actually in Vegas for this show, right?
I was. I flew in after the show on Thursday. I flew out Friday. And I went to see U2 at the Sphere, the new building, which was a mind-blowing show, I have to say. If U2 is not your cup of tea, that's fine. I totally understand that. If there is any artist that comes to that Sphere that you are remotely interested in, go see it. It is mind-blowing that they did this. An 18,600-seat arena that sounds wonderful, and that's not easy to do. The acoustics in a building that big, and then the light show was overwhelming. I just cannot. It's not cheap, but I cannot. It's an experience you can't forget. I cannot recommend it enough.
He sent me some photos through text message and some videos. I'm like, holy shit, that's pretty rad.
It's just amazing.
If you get the opportunity, it's probably one of those things that we should all probably get. Yeah, we should go to that if we get the chance.
Yeah.
All right.
Miguel's here too.
Talk about this.
Yeah, Miguel is here too. So let's get into Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So do you want to just start at the top of the card and work down?
Man, let's work it down. Well, this is the big news. Is we had the big title change at the top of the card.
So there was an interesting crowd there. It was at Sam's Town. Sam's Town is a off the strip casino. It's really mostly for locals, and it's nice. There's nothing wrong with Sam's Town, but it's not one of the mega resorts out there. And the crowd that was there was really into they must have done a ton of money in merchandise there, Jeremy. I got to say, the people that showed up were into New Japan, and they were excited to be there and fired up for seeing these guys. So it's also a music venue. So keep in mind the acoustics in that. When you go to a sports venue, this is an important point to make. The building is designed so that the crowd sound is part of the experience. They want to design acoustics so that the home team has the support when the fans go crazy. A music venue has a different goal. It is designed so that they could get good sound coming from the stage. They're not so much worried about the crowd sound. So at times, this noise I felt like kind of carried up and floated up. I was sitting in the 4th row on the side, so if you're hard camera, we were on the right, basically looking pretty much out to the aisle.
Yeah.
And everyone was enthusiastic. people were into what was going on, but I also felt like sometimes the crowd noise floated up into the ceiling and just kind of went away. But everyone was into everything. So I don't know how it came off. I couldn't hear it. It was also the debut of Walker Stewart, our new play-by-play guy on English commentary on NJPW World. So Jeremy, as a viewer, how did the crowd sound? And more importantly, maybe for us going forward, how did Walker do?
I thought, first off, Walker had a great debut here in Vegas, and he actually had a great follow-up this morning in Japan for the Super Junior Night 9, I believe.
Yeah.
Night 9. He has a lot of potential. He's got a deep cadence. He carries himself well. He's a little blue with a little bit of the humor. Like, there might be some things that he's like, maybe you can't say that the next time, but we will see what leash he has with that. But thumbs up. I am excited for to have him as the steward of the New Japan Sound moving forward. And I thought for his debut, it felt like he had already been doing this a while on his first night out. And I think that's the best way I can say that the familiarity, there wasn't a beat missed with someone who's been watching New Japan for a while. And this Walker clearly knows the product. And he clearly knows the timing in which to introduce things. But there's going to be a seasoning that's just going to come with reps with the product. And, he already had a couple mullet grubs. Like, that's actually pretty funny. He called that right before it actually happened. So.
Well, it's fun to see there. And I got a chance to talk to him for a little while after the show. I went over to the spot there where he and Veda were set up, and I spoke to him a little bit afterwards. He was very gracious, very nice man, and very excited. This guy's enthusiastic. This is not a job that he is taking lightly as, oh, well, maybe I can do this for a while and get a real gig. He is into this. He's into New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's excited about the job. And that comes across when you speak to him. And granted, I mean, I'm sure if he got a bigger job in the years to come or something, he'd take it. Of course, he's very young. He's just starting out his career. But all we really ask, Jeremy, in an announcer is someone who treats the product with respect and not just like, oh, here's this weird niche thing I'm doing. Like, he treats it with respect. He knows the product. He's done his research, and that's really all I ask. And it sounds like he's a pretty good announcer, what I heard in Osaka today, and he had a good debut on Saturday. So, like you said, thumbs up. We're excited to have Walker Stewart doing English commentary going forward.
Yep. Everything about it was fantastic. As for the presentation of the show, it came off a little pedestrian. Just kind of, it had that same issue that New Japan strong shows have had, where from different camera angles, it's differently lit within the show. So, sometimes it's a little darker, sometimes a little lighter.
Yeah.
I don't particularly care for that. And you could tell how small the crowd was. But yeah, he did. He made mistakes. But I am totally fine with the guy making mistakes, because coming into it on the first, he's going to make mistakes, and this is the time for him to make mistakes. But the crucial things, the presentation, the cadence, the knowledge factors, the base factors, they're all there, and he checks the boxes.
Okay. Well, that's good. And, we're getting some little words here about, it's good. There's going to be some growing pains and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, USVA guy confirms they did sell a lot of merchandise. It was an enthusiastic group, and I bought a bunch of stuff. So I'm ready.
It is such a pattern when you go to a New Japan show. The merch lines will wrap around the crowd over and over. I have gone to 3 or 4 shows in San Jose and the San Francisco area, one time at the San Francisco State College, I believe. And that one was wrapped around J.R. Kratos. It was so back far in the day that J.R. Kratos was doing security. This was that tour that Amazing Red did with Will Ospreay a while back, that retirement tour of small Japan shows. Always great merchandise sellers on California, Nevada, on this side of the country. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to wait in line, or I'll just pick a time during the middle of the show to pick a merchandise, because unless you get there right away, prepare for 30 to 40 minutes. in line, and that is not because the merch people are slow. They're moving. They're moving, guys. There's a lot of people buying.
Now, of course, we have a lot of shows to get through this week, and we're going to be talking about the matches, but I did want to mention that I bought a bunch of merchandise, and now, Jeremy, all the rage on YouTube, I don't know if you know about this, all the rage on YouTube are unboxing videos, right? We're looking at ways to grow our audience all the time. I'm thinking about next week, when we don't have as many shows to cover, we can do an unboxing. I can show everybody what I bought, because there's some pretty cool merchandise that I managed to pick up there at the desk. So I figure that, and that's what all the kids are doing these days. They're unboxing videos. Maybe we'll try some. They're even doing some of that on the rack.
When you go to Lone Star Shootout, are you going to be wearing the gear that you bought at Fighting Spirit Unleashed?
Some of it, yeah.
I'm going
to pick one of those.
You need to wear the shirt of the band you're going to go see.
No, a little bit different. I have a plan. A plan. I've been told that you're not supposed to wear the band that you're going to see. So when you go to see U2, you're not supposed to wear a U2 shirt.
Right.
Now, I don't understand this, but I guess it's a thing. I don't understand.
It's cool people logic. I don't particularly care, but I just, you have to say it so that we can introduce this dialogue, because we have like 50 matches to talk about. So
I know.
Talk is just clearly the priority.
Can you imagine if this could go into sports, though? And like if you're going to a Dallas Cowboys game and your girlfriend just kind of said, I don't know, a Cowboys game, don't wear the Cowboy shirt. How about something like the Commanders or the Giants? You get your ass whooped. Like, why can't you wear that? I don't understand this.
It's a different mentality. Hey, folks, if you're liking what you're seeing, before we get underway in the New Japan talk, you see in the chat, you see the subscribe button, any of that stuff. We can't thank you enough if you hit those likes, if you hit those subscribes, comments, all that stuff. It's the algorithm. We're getting underway. Let's talk about Shingo beating Thomas ass.
And there it was. That was the main event of the night. Now, this one was a terrific match that picked up a little bit late. Now, this was a long show. I'll say that, too, because we had the two pre-show matches. We had it was a long night. We had Shingo Takagi and Tama Tonga. This thing went 27 minutes, so 26:58 was the total time. Hard strike exchanges. There was a big suplex battle in the middle of it that was fun to watch. It built to these the big moves, as you would imagine with these guys. There was a pumping bomber and a pile driver from Shingo. A Last of the Dragon reversed into a cutter by Tama Tonga at the 25-minute mark, which was pretty cool. That was at about the 25-minute mark, and Shingo reversed the cutter into one of his own, a pumping bomber there for 2 after that, and then afterwards Last of the Dragon for 3. The rest of the match built well, and again it was stiff, it was hard hitting. My only thing on this one, Jeremy, is at the end of this night, I'm not sure this thing really needed to go 27. Now, the last few minutes were fantastic, so I'm glad they did the last few minutes the way they did it. Maybe shave a few in the middle, and that thing, I think this would have been a great 22-minute match. At the end of that long night, 27 minutes, the crowd was getting a little tired.
I think they just wanted to make sure everybody went home happy, and they were willing to put a little bit of extra toppings on the Banana Sundae that was this match. It was a great match. It's what I call the actual close of the G1, the C bracket supremacy, which when all said and done, it appears that Shingo Takagi was atop the C bracket after all the title changes and battles and all. I feel like the chapter finally closed, man. I would take your perspective of being there live and just feeling like the night had just been very, very long. I was able to kind of stop and pause and go through when I was watching it on Fight. So I see it. I just, in my mind, it was closing an entire segment of New Japan lore for 2023. And if you just wanted to take the last couple minutes to really just hey man, this whole thing, we're done. It's over. I'm good with that.
And we're going to take a look at some comments here from the folks. And Brad mentions this one. He said that Tama has really stepped it up, and it's good to see. Tongaloa, he tries hard, I guess. Well, he's coming back from those injuries. Tama Tonga has stepped it up, and he has been good. I agree. He was a good never open weight champion. He's been good this year in getting that title from Finlay around to Shingo and being a good ambassador for it. This was a good match. The only thing I'm saying is take out 5 in the middle, but keep that in. The last few minutes was absolutely wonderful.
This kind of played out what I thought, though, because when we were talking last week, I'm I kind of think Tama Tonga is going to lose this match because there's no more story to tell. with this.
Yeah.
Like, he conquered his demons. Like, if he's getting this belt back, it's to like build David Finlay up for bigger things. And it's like, you might as well just drop Shingo right now. And that's what they're doing. And I am excited about who I think is going to be facing Shingo based off of what I've seen chirping on social media.
Yeah, and Dunstan mentions Shingo winning makes me happy, but I'm worried that Tsuji and Shingo won't be contenders for Tag League. I think they're probably going to be contenders, and I think they'll probably be in it. But right now, before he won this belt, I thought they might win the thing.
Yes.
Now I don't think they will, because I think they have other ideas for Shingo, and hopefully for Tsuji that doesn't involve the Rambo. But I agree with you, Dunstan. I was hoping that they would be big-time contenders. I think it's going to be one of those deals where they're going to be in it on the last day, but not quite.
Yes. I think they're going to be having exciting matches throughout the thing. I think they're going to be a lot similar to Bushi and Titan and Desperado and Wato, where, they're not going to be in it in the final night, but they're going to be the ones having the exciting matches that people are coming back for, make sure that they get to see these tag matches. Interesting
question from Brad is, where does Tama go from here? Back to the tag team division, up the card? They've been vocal about not going back to the Gorillas of Destiny as a tag team. Like Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga, they've moved on from that. So I don't think they're going to do that. It is a fair question as to what happens to him after this. They might give him a run at Naito as world champ, as someone that, Naito could get a solid title defense in against. You got to have guys you can beat right there. And Tama Tonga would be a guy that would have a good match and that Naito could win. So maybe that could be a thing where he steps up to Naito eventually. I'm not saying like on January 4th, obviously, but it would be a way for him. I think he has established himself as a solid high card singles competitor now, which a year ago, I don't think he was fully there. So this whole never open weight title run has provided that.
Honestly, it feels like they're headed to like House of Torture area. Because here's the thing. He's not going to be in the never title mix. They're not going to be doing the tag titles. Potentially down the line, they could be feuding for the never 6-man titles once those are debelted by Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii. But when you get to that point, it's like you still have Hikuleo and you still have ELP with the strong titles. And they're not going to have them like doing dual belt things because there's just too many people with too many plans around there. It seems a little too messy. So until those belts are off of those guys and they can really focus on something else, it just feels like there's going to be entourage level feuds going on with greater stables rather than Tama being a feature at least until the New Japan Cup in like March.
I don't know. And here's a thought on that. As far as the trios title, I agree with you that GOD will eventually go after the trios, but I think that could be Tonga Loa, Hikuleo, and ELP.
It could
be.
And
Tama Tonga could be the singles guy, so to speak, out of that. So,
but he'll still just be in feuds. Like there's no trajectory for him to be a world title guy. He's going to be at the top level right now. Yeah. There may potentially be US, UK aspirations for him. That's the title that he could be feuding for. But that is a whole mess in and of itself. And so Tama's just going to be kind of in the mud a little bit, I think, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it turns out for him after that and what plans they have for him in the Dome. So that was our main event. Now we'll back up here before that. And here's one of the reasons that, again, I thought maybe shaving 5 minutes would be good, because the match before was LIJ against just 5 guys. And this is a straight tag match with Naito and Hiromu Takahashi against Sanada and Yuya Uemura. This match was wonderful, but it did go to a 20-minute draw. And this was a really good preview. Naito even healed a little bit in here. And I have to say, at the live crowd, Sanada had more support than I thought he was going to. He had a little bit more support from that crowd than I believed. He emoted a little bit more. And he was one of the people, like, I love going to these shows with my girlfriend because she enjoys the product. She likes wrestling. She knows who the guys are, but she does not follow it week to week to week. So I sort of get that more casual fan's perspective on it. And she just said, well, a couple of things. One, Sanada is a little bit better looking in person than she was prepared for. Just like, oh gosh, he's a good looking guy. And then he also was just a little more animated. He emoted more in Las Vegas than he usually does. He had some enthusiasm in this match. At least that's what came across live to me. Hiromu and Giulia were very good together in this match. It makes me more excited for the main event of the Tokyo Dome because both Naito and Sonata were kind of into things. You mentioned the building, and it is a black-walled building. They have these huge black curtains up everywhere, so it was dark in the building.
Mm-hmm.
It was really dark in there. And I think that's part of how the building is set up. So, but nevertheless, I felt like the people were into this and were enjoying it. It was a really good match. And I also saw a thing from Chris Sampson's Twitter that Naito has actually crossed 24 hours in the ring, in ring time in 2023. The first guy in New Japan to cross that line into 24 hours. But here was 20 minutes of it.
Of New Japan, Naito. How about that?
It was quite exciting. It was a really good match. Once they hit the 15-minute mark, the murmurs in the crowd started coming through like, oh, I think we're going all 20 here. Because, of course, if you look at these four, they don't want to beat any of them, right?
No. I was like, oh, we're going to a draw again. And I think I'm son of a bitch. We are going to a draw again.
Yeah. But it was entertaining. Did it cross on TV as a good match?
No, I enjoyed myself. It was... You're looking at this card and you see a lot of title matches, and then you see that this match is positioned as the semi-main. And you're like, yeah, obviously it's the Wrestle Kingdom thing, but you're not necessarily ready for this to even have any heat to it. Just there hasn't been any heat to the Sonata Naito like feud at all. And this is the first signs of life, I feel like, that we have like something that people are reacting to and people are taking sides and people are interested in. And it's not like a full-on fire, but it's a spark, and I'm happy with the spark in October.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, that we're finally starting to feel a little bit of warmth in this. And the way they worked that match, it's the first time I really thought that, oh, maybe this does mean something to these two in character. I mean, like you're starting to see Naito put a little bit more into it. So, of course, part of his character is that he's tranquilo. He doesn't really get wrapped up in things. But this would be the time, right? It's not turned his back on him. So,
maybe he's not as chill as you think he is about everything that's been happening.
That's what I was hoping to see. And we got a little bit of it right there. The NJPW Strong Openweight title match came just before that, and this was Eddie Kingston and HENARE. This one only went 12 minutes and 24 seconds, but it was exactly what you'd think it would be. A lot of Eddie selling, because Eddie is one of the best sellers in the business. HENARE with a lot of power moves. He is a strong man. And I stood next to this guy. I had no idea. This dude's quads are insane and just built. It doesn't really come across on TV that this is a powerful looking guy. Also, by the way, one of the best with the fans. He came out to the merchandise stand afterwards. He was around the casino afterwards and just gregarious and just looked like a fun hang, to be honest with you. HENARE was over with me after seeing all that in person. And this was a good match of its type. Good strikes. Everything was snug, but everything was worked at a pace where Eddie made sure all the selling registered. Eddie doesn't rush through things. And he also did a lot of Kojima chops, the in the corner with the machine gun to style chops, because that had to set up something that we haven't gotten to yet, but that's the next open-weight title match. So in the end, Eddie did get the victory with the spinning back fists and things, and the crowd loved Eddie. Everybody was into Eddie. Eddie is just having one of those years right now where everything he does gets over with the fans. People were happy to see him. They were happy to see him get the win, and he defeated HENARE. And let's talk about the match. Then we'll go to the video that happened a little bit later, because it's worth mentioning with Shingo too and Eddie. So we'll get into future title matches after we talk about this one.
It was a great match. I enjoyed it. I've tremendously enjoyed Eddie Kingston matches this year, and Eddie and HENARE has also taken the next step, but he's still pretty much exactly where he is going, where he has been on the card and will remain in the future. But when it's time to step up and have a hard hitting match with Kingston, he can play the role. There is a thing with Kingston that I will say, and it is there is a Kingston match, and I feel like we are seeing a lot of the Eddie Kingston style matches lately, and that part of it is preservation of his body. Part of it is giving the fans exactly what they want to see, knowing that he's got to do the hard hits that his body can take, but minimize the super insane shocks to his body that take him out and give him hernias and have to get surgery. He is minimizing that the more he's going, because he sees a very lucrative path in his career right now. And if he gets injured, that's all going to dry up. So he's wrestling differently, but I don't think it's all that. I don't think it's going to make a big difference in the long run.
And Brad says, I enjoyed this match a lot. HENARE is having a hell of a year. Really is, yeah. And he's been a real talented guy and for a while, and now he's starting to move up that edge of the card. So
his debutante ball debut at the G1 has refreshed him immensely.
Yeah, I agree. And so good stuff from there. And then we had what I thought was live the best match of the night. We had the strong openweight tag team titles. It's ELP and Hikuleo against Alex Zayne and Lance Archer. And this just gelled really nicely. And I got to say, this is just a match in which both teams were hitting their spots. They had some fun things to do. Both of them did, as far as teamwork goes. Of course, ELP has his wonderful smooth moves where he goes into that whole series of dives and jumps and cabratas that he kind of does in the middle of a match, and it's terrific. Hikuleo and Archer had a good chokeslam battle that was entertaining. They're about relatively close to the same height, and Zayne had some really good flips and dives. Everyone was just on, and ELP ended up pinning Zayne with the chokeslam and the splash. And it was my favorite wrestling match of the night. It only went 9 minutes and 25 seconds, but it breezed by. It was terrific. And afterwards, the winners there, Phantasmo and Hikuleo, attacked by the West Coast Wrecking Crew of Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs to set things up for Dallas.
I'm excited for this run for ELP and Hikuleo. They are great together. The big man, small man combination. And that's not to say that Zayne and Archer aren't a great combination as well. The preference that I have is for these guys. I'm looking forward to the rematch of the World Tag League, potentially, between these two teams, which, if they are in the same bracket, that's probably where you might be seeing somebody getting a win back where they didn't get it on a title match. I'm just saying. But no, I think I wasn't expecting you to say it was your favorite match of the night, but I totally get it when you said it was.
Yeah, live, it was a lot of fun. And Brad says Monster Sauce is going to be great in Tag League. I agree. I'm looking forward to this. And, World Tag League is not always the highlight of the New Japan calendar. Let's face it. There have been some years where it's kind of a series of shows to get through. There are some new heavyweight tag teams. These two are some of them. And we're seeing, like the War Dogs. There are new teams out there, Tsuji and Shingo, that I'm genuinely excited to see team up and wrestle each other. And I just think it's going to be a strong tour. And Brad says this is a great spot for Hikuleo. Working with ELP is going to do him wonders. Yeah, it absolutely will. And I'm so excited.
You think West Coast Wrecking Crew might win those belts?
Well, that's always a possibility. We'll see. They have to do some sort of title change, don't you think, in Dallas? There's got to be some switch. Five title matches. 5 title matches.
I think that they're probably holding on to the titles and then defending them against somebody that they lose to in the World Tag League. That's kind of how I would do it. I wouldn't have them lose right before the World Tag League, but at the same time, Royce Isaacs and Jarrell Nelson have been grinding very, very hard and working very, very hard within the New Japan system. And I wouldn't be upset nor shocked whatsoever if they were to win.
We also had a video, by the way, after the Shingo Takagi match where we were wondering if we got the speech. We were wondering if we were going to get any kind of a challenge, right? And we thought, oh, no, he's just going to leave. And as soon as he's walking out of the ring, the whole place goes quiet. And the lights go out. Ooh, who's it going to be? And a video played, and it was Trent Beretta. And I cannot tell you the thud that landed with in the building.
I will tell you, I felt like a thud hit my living room when I was watching. Like, Oh, Trent.
Trent.
Oh,
So
okay.
like the West Coast Wrecking Crew got a pop, that attack. Like people were like, oh shit, that was good. And Nelson and Isaac said look good earlier in the night. So, thumbs up there. And there were a couple of challenges. One that also was like we'll get to that. But, and another one that people were genuinely excited about. But this whole Trent Beretta thing, we all just kind of like, ooh, the lights are up. And then you're like, oh.
And you turn around and it's Trent and his aviators, and you're just like, cool.
The guy that sometimes stands next to Orange Cassidy. That's where Trent Beretta's career is right now, folks. There's just no way. I'm not trying to say he's an untalented guy. I'm saying at this time and place.
Rocky Romero pays dividends, and we all know this.
In this time and place, not the biggest challenger they could come up with for Shingo, but he's the one there. And Dunstan says that West Coast Wrecking Crew should be in Tag League this year. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
And Brad mentions, I love Trent, but that was not what I expected. Again, like I said, not an untalented man, but a man who is not being pushed right now at all. Like even Orange Cassidy doesn't even stand next to him as much as he used to. And Orange,
you want to know something funny about this? Is I'm actually supposed to go to a Collision taping on a Friday night on the 10th of November. Collision is taping on Friday instead of Saturday for whatever reason. It's a Collision and Rampage dual thing. Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and Trent Beretta from AEW are not on the Collision show. They are going to be in Texas instead of Oakland, California at the Lone Star Shootout, and I am absolutely mystified. There's got to be big picture ramifications for this one.
Yeah, I'm very excited that I might get to see those guys there. So well, I definitely will see some of them. Yep. Before that, we had Dunstan. We're going to get to your question in a second. Actually, let's get to it now. He has a good one. Have you guys seen that Nakashima is a young lion. Nakajima has been teasing a match with Shingo, maybe a match at the Dome. There's a lot of things going on with Nakajima. He just showed up in All Japan not too long ago. So what do you think about all this, Jeremy? What's the noise telling you?
What Dunstan speaks of. After Shingo won the title in Vegas, Katsuhiko Nakajima started chirping at Twitter about, hey, you and me, why don't we do a match, big guy? Sounds fun. And, they've been going back and forth here and there. Frankly speaking, Katsuhiko Nakajima versus Shingo Takagi at the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom is like a dream come true. And I think if I could guess that would be the ideal direction, but hey, they could do anything and they could go anywhere with this stuff. I've had these ideal plans and dreams about what Wrestle Kingdom could be. And, it is a roller coaster right now. But I am with you, Williams. Let's go Nakajima at Shingo for the never openweight title at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, of course. The big one, of course, was that I've been hoping for isn't going to happen now because apparently Danielson can't get through a match with Okada without breaking something. So we talked about how random that match with Okada was, and then he ends up getting a broken orbit bone in a match that really shouldn't have even been happening. It's just been a frustrating month with that.
I don't know, man. I think that they are probably just keeping that guy safe, but I am more confident than most people probably should be that Danielson is going to be wrestling at Tokyo Dome.
Okay. All right. You think he's all right? And
I don't think he's all right. There's a lot about it that if you go back and really watch this stuff,
you think it might be a work
played out. Like, look, we're getting into the weeds here, and I'm sorry, guys, but here's the deal. Tony Khan has gotten a lot from New Japan Pro Wrestling over the last few months, over the last year. One of the things that we get back is if he can't deliver his top stars for the Tokyo Dome, like, that's bad business. If you are trying to make sure that this guy is okay and you don't want to upset the crowds that he's not going to get, that they're not going to get Danielson for the 6th week running up to Wrestle Kingdom with AEW, and he's got an orbital bone and he's just off the board and you don't have to worry about it, and then your partners have this thing. I have discussed this with a few people, and I feel like it's pretty compelling that if he were fine, it would be okay. But I also like that they are explaining that either way, he will be out until the end of the year, not sure that he is going to be there. So
Okay. Well,
there are aspects to this that if things get murky later on, the questions are already there.
Okay, that's fair enough. I see where you're going with that. I like that approach. So we'll see how it turns out. I know what I'm rooting for it in the Dome, and so
I would if somebody were to say, would you put money on Danielson wrestling in the Dome right now? I'd be like, I'd put money on it.
All right. Well, we also had an NJPW Strong Women's title match over here, and this was the pleasant surprise of the night, I have to say. I didn't think that it was going to be bad at all because Giulia is Giulia, and she's one of the best workers out there right now. What I didn't expect was just how well Hyan was going to do. This woman showed up. This was a terrific match, and she wasn't being carried. She showed her charisma. She was athletic. She was hanging in there with Giulia. Someone should go sign her, and I'm hoping it's Stardom. She should get a run with that company. She's on that. She could be on that level, I think. Giulia has real star power, and the crowd reacted to her like she was a major star coming out right there. And there was a couple of good bumps in this one, a butterfly suplex off the top rope that was a terrific spot, and a Northern Lights bomb from Giulia to win it. But the crowd was into it. 12 minutes and 3 seconds. Of course, she retained. We've talked about this belt is being saved for someone very special if they can ever make the match. But in the meantime, she's going through and having these really good title defenses. She had one with in Stardom not too long ago with Ami Sourei. She had this one with Hyan. She has been challenged by Trish Adora afterwards, so I guess we're going to be seeing that one soon. But Giulia is a big-time star. She came off like a big-time star. Hyan did her part. Really good title match here.
Giulia is not available for Lone Star Shootout, so that match is not going to happen there. So it will be happening sometime in the future. That could happen in January, if not somewhere else before then.
Right.
Let's talk about Hyan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard any feedback on this, but she came off incredibly camera ready and polished on television. She's ready to go, and if we're gonna call an audition for somebody on a greater stage, some of these women that have been on these strong shows, Stephanie Baker, Hyan, these are like debutante debuts. It is just like, hey, I'm here and I am on the level. So I think WWE, AEW, Stardom, everyone should be after her because she is, I don't want to say she's a near finished product, but the potential and what has been built so far is clearly almost ready for top level production.
Brad mentioned she's great. She's worked for Rev Pro in the past, which is, big time company, and her working for Stardom would be awesome. Yeah, it would. It sure would. And I think she's ready for that. She has done a little bit of work with, internationally. So that wouldn't be totally
deserving of greater recognition. 100%.
Yeah. So let's hope we see more of her because that was a real nice piece of work there. So
party match.
Brad mentions though the first time I saw Hyan was 4 or 5 years ago against Kylie Ray in Reality of Wrestling. That's where she comes from, the Houston. Well, she's not from Houston, but she started off with Booker T's company, Reality of Wrestling. There, in a lot of people did. Roxanne Perez came out of there, and she was really good back then. It's only gotten better. So, hopefully we'll see more of her. We did have this one. This was a Legends match that I was excited about. I do feel like a lot of the New Japan people didn't really know much about Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. on this one, but nevertheless, we got to see one of the all-time legends of Lucha Libre, Atlantis, his son Atlantis Jr., Mistico, and Hiroshi Tanahashi on one side against the biggest heel in Mexico, Azucar, Rocky Romero, Soberano Jr., who was fabulous, Tiger Mask, and Adrian Quest, who was there to take the fall. And we had a fun match here. This was as basic as it gets, wasn't it? It was his 40th anniversary special match. They gave him with the
flowers, with the celebration at the beginning.
I thought of you immediately, Jeremy, when that happened. And I say, see what happens when you give people their flowers. They get their ass beat. And they should, by the way, if we're all worried about who's getting flowers.
Doesn't hurt, but
Huey and Dewey Jackson can have all the flowers they want. I mean, that's fine. Anyway, this was a match where everybody just does their greatest hits.
Yeah.
So everyone hit all their key spots. Tanahashi did the sling blade. He did a series of dragon screws. Atlantis did a series of tilt-a-whirl backbreakers. Just the greatest hits here. We don't have a ton of time, about 10 and a half minutes. And of course, Atlantis, the all-time legend, got the win on Adrian Quest. And I didn't mean to just say that he's just there to take a fall, but they needed somebody to lose this thing. So Adrian did a few things, and he took the pin. And just fun. And Rocky was really playing up the heel mannerisms, which is fun to see because, of course, Rocky right now, biggest rudo in Mexico. And he and Atlantis, or excuse me, he and Mistico are two of the major singles belts title holder. Rocky, the welterweight title, Mistico, the middleweight champion. And getting to see them do anything together is a lot of fun. So enjoyable, but exactly what it should have been.
Rocky, the great villain of 3 continents.
You're right. That's exactly right. And we're going to have to get through the rest of these matches here pretty quick because we're through most of the stuff that's really important. But we did have Gabe Kidd and Tom Lawler, which was fine. This wasn't great. Nothing bad either. Might have been a minute or two too long. It went 12 minutes and 30 seconds. But the finish was inevitable since Kidd is getting that shot at either Will Ospreay or Shota Umino, whoever comes out of Power Struggle. Don't forget, we're doing a live stream for Power Struggle on Saturday. And it's just going to be one of those things where Kidd needs to get the win. Lawler was good in this one. It was a stiff, hard-hitting match, and it did its job. Got Gabe Kidd over.
Yeah, I mean, business as usual. Lawler was the businessman. He had a great match. Got a great match out of Kidd. Kick time to shine. Let's move on.
And we had the women's tag match. These were mostly Lucha Libre performers. Stephanie Vaquer and Zeusis defeated Giulia and Johnny Robbie. And here's what I'll say about this one. This match was really enjoyable, and the crowd was into it. It was fast-paced. Johnny Robbie has a lot of potential, too, by the way. She has terrific facial expressions in the ring, good selling. Her moves were good. Johnny Robbie, probably not the first person you think of in this match, but I think she really shined in it. We already know Vaquer is good. And I thought all 4 had a good night. Giulia and Zeusis have been on cards in Arena Mexico in front of 10,000 people on a fairly regular basis, so nothing's going to scare them. And Vaquer ended up getting the win, and she challenged Mayu Iwatani for the Dallas show. So that's what I'm going to get to see is Stephanie Vaquer against Mayu Iwatani, and I'm excited about that match. I'm 89% confident Iwatani is retaining that, but nevertheless, Vaquer and Iwatani ought to be fun to watch.
I don't know. Maybe. Like, I wouldn't be so sure that Iwatani's keeping that belt. Like, it's just languishing over there, man.
Well, the only thing I can think of on that is if Stardom just said, we've got too many people out injured and we don't want to send people over there as much anymore.
Or you're going to have Vaquer on the Strong Show for the foreseeable future way more than Iwatani, and you've seen that she can go.
You can. It would be a stretch for Iwatani to lose to her. That's all I'm saying. Is that's a tricky one, but it can be done.
Anything can happen with New Japan right now, is what I'm saying. It's just with New Japan and Stardom relationship and all that is like there are priorities here, and it might just be that way.
Yeah, maybe so. But Brad mentions Johnny Robbie only started wrestling 2 years ago, and she's really good and going to be really good really soon. I gotta agree. She has a ton of potential, and
pretty good already.
Yeah, Giulia and Zeusis are veterans of that business. And again, when you work for CML and you work in front of that many people that many times, it's going to help you out a lot. So good match. And then we had
a lightning round this one. We had Satoshi Kojima versus Fred Rosser, Alex Coughlin, Jeff Cobb. It was a big man meaty match. They all beat the crap out of each other.
Yes,
eventually, Satoshi Kojima pinned Fred Rosser, and then Satoshi Kojima later on came out and challenged Eddie Kingston for the strong title at Lone Star Shootout. Are you excited for that match, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be another one of those things where Eddie Kingston is like, I can't believe I get to do this. I get to wrestle Kojima right there, but it'll be good. And yes, I am excited about that. Jeff Cobb and Eddie Kingston would have been interesting also. So I kind of thought that might be where they were going with it. But when Kojima won, I was happy to see it. Crowd was into Kojima quite a bit. And by the way, Alex Coughlin hit a German suplex on Jeff Cobb, which was pretty impressive to watch. And however big you think Jeff Cobb is, bigger in person. just a huge dude. So I
kind of thought Fred Rosser would win this match. I was pleasantly surprised with Satoshi Kojima because that is a match I'm way more interested in seeing. And I will come back to my statement that after we watch this match, we will have seen a part Eddie Kingston match and a part Satoshi Kojima match.
The other video we had that night was someone throwing darts at a dartboard with Toru Yano on it, and it turned out to be Joey Janela. Woo! And so I am going to have to sit through Joey Janela against Yano apparently in Dallas. That's what I have to. Okay. Well, at some point, I'll have to go to the bathroom, get a drink or something like that. And it'll be during Joey Janela and Toru Yano.
I'm watching this video at home and I'm seeing the dartboard. And I think there's Yano's on the dartboard or something. I'm like, okay, Yano. And I'm like, is that Janela? And I'm like, oh no, it's Janela. And I'm just like, well, Janela versus Yano. And I just laugh and I'm just like, fuck it. Janela versus Yano.
We got through the former Enzo Amore being in New Japan. I guess we can get through Janela being in it for a little.
He's not bad.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Just not interested in Janela versus Yano. If that makes any sense.
If Joey Janela were wrestling in my backyard, I'd close the blinds.
He has done great things for pro wrestling, and he has elevated people and given talent greater recognition.
What?
He has, with his pro wrestling shows in spring break, there are definitely people that have gotten, whatever. So I'm going to give him his credit there. With that said,
you can have his
flowers.
There
has never been a Janela match that I've enjoyed watching, and you
don't think this is
and I
be
apologize that is the case. I am not into it, but somebody thought this is a great idea. Maybe Yano's like, I really want to have a match with Janela. Maybe this is all Yano. Maybe this is all Toru Yano, and he's like, if I'm coming to the stage, I want a match with Janela. And they're like, we'll ask him. And they lowballed him, and Janela's like, Yano, sign me up.
You're not at that. You don't think this is going to be your first favorite Joey Janela match that you really enjoy? Is him against Yano?
This is going to be the headlining argument for my for his candidacy into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
There we go. Dunstan just mentions that money. That's money that could have been given to other talent, but instead to Janela. Why? Yeah, we're wondering the same thing. My friend. Miguel says, "How much is it going to cost John LaRocca to review that match?"
John LaRocca watching right now. We're going to find out.
Oh, and then Brad says, NJPW sent a bunch of guys to GCW. This was the payoff for that. It has to be. Well, let's not send too many more there. If this
cooperation among promotions, right?
Yeah, you're right. All right. We want to encourage cooperation among promotions. That's the happy face I will put on that turd. Now, moving on. We do have Super Junior Tag and a lot of it to go over with. Is there any other news or notes from that show, Jeremy, before we
Not really.
Okay. No. So we're going to go back to this. Now, this was a series of shows here, the Super Junior Tag League leading up to Power Struggle. We're not going to go over all of this stuff. We're running on it. We're already 48 minutes into this show, but I did want to mention a few things. The Young Lions mostly wrestled Makabe, Honma, and Tenzan on the undercard of Super Junior Tag. I noticed this. Bolton now comes out separately from the other Young Lions. He gets his own entrance. Same music, but he gets his own entrance, and then Loibe and or Nakashima come out. Interesting. That's not by accident. So, again, Bolton, the first among equals in the current group right there.
Chaos, that dude.
Chaos beat House of Torture just every night, mostly Ishii, Yano, and Yoshihashi until some of the guys from Vegas got back to Japan. And Narita and Shota teamed up every night, mostly facing Okan and Callum Newman. Shota was getting over a new move, which is basically a takeoff of the Hidden Blade intentionally. He's kind of taunting Will Ospreay by coming up with a Blaze Blade, which is a running. It's the Hidden Blade, except instead of just an elbow to the back of the head, it is a European uppercut to the back of the head, and all of it is just a message to mess with Ospreay's mind going into their match at Power Struggle, which again. Live stream coming up on
what time do you want to do that on Saturday? Let's figure this out right now.
Well, when are you done with work and you can see the show and everything?
I was thinking if we were to go live at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern, I think I could have the show watched and ready to go for an hour talking about the show. What say you?
6 p.m. Eastern sounds great to me.
Guys, we're going on live 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday to recap the Power Struggle pay-per-view that I will be watching throughout the day. So I am prepared and ready to dissect, hopefully, everything that happened and talk about Do you think World Tag League debut? What do you think? Could happen. Anyway, we'll be here Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll be back next week, Thursday, 2:30 Eastern, 5:30 Eastern, as always.
We will run down that Power Struggle show at the very end of this one. It should be a good one. That card is looking pretty great right now. Yeah. So going back to Junior Tag League, same day as the Las Vegas show, on the 28th, they were in Fukushima for Upset Day. And it wasn't officially called that, but that's how it turned out. 824 people, so 23 more people than were in Las Vegas for that show right there at Suragajo Gymnasium. And I mentioned the undercard, so we're not going to cover all that. And we're going to have to go through these matches quick. You know how it is.
Do you have any from this night, any matches that you'd say you should step out of your way to see?
Yeah, I do think that the main event was worth looking at from that one. And I also think the Jet Setters against LIJ, that's worth going out of your way to see. Titan Ibushi against the Jet Setters was pretty damn good. The rest of the stuff nothing was bad. We didn't really have a bad match in the tournament all week. I didn't think. But those were the two. The semi-main and the main were worth going out of your way to see. Those are worth your time.
The Jet Setters versus Desperado Wato was probably one of my favorite tag matches of the entire tournament.
Okay, well, there you go. And so we had in Fukushima, we had Catch 2-2 defeating Taguchi in the DKC. Catch 22 took most of this. There wasn't a whole lot of comedy and only a couple of awkward DKC moments. And they won with they've been working babyface style too, which is in contrast from last year. Catch 2-2 was a heel team last year, but this time definitely working a babyface style. They used the double knees and got the win on DKC. And Brad's going to speak for all of us here. I'm over butt stuff Taguchi and have been for a long time. I think we all are, but it's just the way it goes now. They just seem to think that people are into it. Maybe in Japan they are, but I don't know. I don't get it.
Steven, Brad, that gimmick is ass.
Super Junior Tag League next. Just 5 guys got a win over Yo and Musashi. That was Doki and Taka Michinoku getting one of their wins on the tour. Musashi hit the Michinoku driver on Doki right there and right in Taka's face, doggone it. Of course, he's a Michinoku pro wrestler. And Taka hit the driver on Yo and a daybreak for 2. And then they hit the move that is their semi-finisher. It is the Suplex de la Ki, which is a Suplex de la Luna, Suplex de la K with a Taka super kick just before he hits the suplex. So that's a nice little combo move, and that's how they got the win there. So just 5 guys with a rare victory. Mostly they were putting people over in this one. Anything else from that night that we should cover? The Mighty Don't Kneel defeated the House of Torture. That was Robbie Eagles and Fujita. Again, they got a win and didn't win a whole lot in this tournament, but they got one here. And Sho ended up getting the whiskey into Kanemaru's eyes. That Sho had the whiskey this time, spit it, and then no, I had that wrong. Kanemaru did spit the whiskey, but he sprayed Sho in the eyes, and then Robbie rolled Sho up to get the upset there. What turned out to be fairly important because they needed to have a couple of these little upsets in there so that everyone could be bunched up on the last day. Then we mentioned Titan and Bushi defeated the Jet Setters in a terrific match. That was an Angel Immortal to Kushida for 3 in that one. 10 minutes and 43 seconds, but a lot of fun. And then the main event in Fukushima was El Desperado and Master Wato beating Clark Connors and Drilla Moloney 17 minutes and 51 seconds. Really good match. Desperado ended up getting his whole mask pretty much torn off. Wrestled most of it without it and still managed to keep his hair in his face enough that you really didn't see it a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And in the end, though, he did manage to get Pinche Loco to win after dealing with all the House of Torture interference. And not only that, Wato saved Desperado from the full clip, and Desperado thanked him and shook his hand after. So progress is being made in the Desperado category.
They're bonding. I love it. They're my favorite. They're my favorite bromance right now.
Yeah, it has been enjoyable to watch. They moved on to Niigata on the 30th, and that's actually Sonata's hometown. 731 folks showed up for that one, and House of Torture defeated Taguchi and DKC. Let's see. We also had Bullet Club getting a win back, getting back on the winning track against Doki and Taka Michinoku. We had TMDK, Eagles and Fujita winning again over Yo and Musashi. But Musashi's look good every night right there, but they're not going to push a guy from Michinoku Pro. So they were kind of a mid-pack team right there. They took most of the losses, but good showings. Musashi is not blessed with a ton of charisma, I think, is one thing, but he's definitely a good wrestler, and his matches have been fine, but they're not getting a lot of wins.
He feels like a proxy. You know, like Sho and Yo, just kind of like Yo had Sho, and now Yo has Musashi. Like he's just like the yin and yang. Like there's nothing in particularly standout, but they work well as they mesh well as a team together.
Fair enough. Then we had LIJ against Catch 2-2 in a really good match, and Titan Ibushi came out with Naito, which was pretty impressive, Jeremy, because. Okay, so the show in Las Vegas ended at late Saturday night. Mm-hmm. The show here in Nagata was basically U.S. time early Monday morning. So we're talking about 27, 28 hours between these shows. Mm-hmm. And Naito did mention in post-match comments that he got off the plane and took a bullet train right to Nagata. Had really just landed back in the country. And made it to the show. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of time. If you look at how you would get from Las Vegas to Niigata, getting there in 27 hours wasn't half bad. We're going to get to some of these comments in a minute, guys. I promise we will get into it. We're just going to cover the rest of this show. Then we'll do some. And LIJ defeated Catch 2-2 in this one. They were telling the story again that TJP's neck is banged up. And, of course, there's some bang-up stuff on Akira as well, but mostly it's about TJP's neck. He keeps trying to get guys up for the leaning tower, which involves basically the doomsday device position, right? He's just got a guy up on his shoulders like he's playing chicken, and they keep playing it up that TJP can't quite get there. He gets the guy up, and then he just kind of has to drop him. He can't hang in there. And then what they did was they draped him over the top rope. Titan Ibushi did. Each of them climbed up to turnbuckles on the opposite side, and then just hit him with a hanging knee drop on the neck. You know, just a heck of a move there, and continue to work on that neck. But Titan did roll up TJP to get the victory after he couldn't hit that leaning tower. So the story is that the neck is a weakness. After that, we had El Desperado and Wato getting another big win, this time over Kushida and Kevin Knight. Afterwards, Desperado got on the microphone and said that the junior heavyweight ace needs to be in Hantai, and he thinks he's looking at the next junior heavyweight ace, and he's looking right at Wato right there. And Wato, I thought, was going to choke up in the middle of the ring. He still won't wear the shirt. We still need the shirt. But nevertheless, these two are warming up to each other, and he said some very nice things about young Master Wato.
So are Strong Style joining Hantai, if not already Hantai? Like, it just feels like it's all but official that by Wrestle Kingdom or their shows right before Wrestle Kingdom, just like Suzuki-gun disbanded last year, that by this time that they're going to be like, yeah, we're a Hantai, we're all in. What do you think?
We're just going to have to suck it up and admit it, huh? We got to do it. And we have a couple of comments I want to get to. That Fujita is going to be a star of the future, according to Dunstan. Yeah, this is a guy he's good now. You know, he was only away for 6 weeks, and he was good when he left. He's good now. This guy is definitely a big time star.
He's like, let me cook. And they're like, okay, see?
Dunstan also mentions that Desperado have been a massive highlight on the tour. It's been my favorite part of it, really. And there have been a lot of good matches. And Brad mentions that he loves Desperado. They're so good together. And yeah, Desperado is excellent at playing the annoyed older brother. You know, so
I will tell you this: the fact that they did not make it to post bracket play makes me think that Ren and Shota may be winning the World Tag League and going to Bishamon, because you can't do it with both. You can't do it with Desperado and Wato and Shota and Ren, where they both advanced to the thing. But you wanted to see this. You wanted Desperado and Wato as a team to just be take it all the way. You were building for this friendship. So the fact that they're going to have this playing off going in the future is this is odd couple stuff in New Japan, and I am here for it.
Dunstan also mentions that Musashi has a look like Sonata, but not the moveset or charisma to stand out. That it's harsh. I think he's a good wrestler, but the criticism thing is fair. He does not light up the room on that. And he's from a smaller company. He's from Michinoku Pro, which is a very solid company with a very good history, but just not on the level of New Japan quite yet. And yeah, I have to say that it's not, unlike some of the other people they brought in, I'm not necessarily aching to see Musashi full time in New Japan yet on that. Where the other guys, I was like, yeah, bring them in, especially when they were like all together again, half the damn New Japan roster or All Japan roster, half the All Japan roster. I was like, let's get these guys in here. They're terrific.
I think they're going to bring Leo Rush back before they
bring
Musashi back.
Well, I think that's the only reason Musashi's here. To be fair, is that Leo couldn't do the tour, and I do think they still have plans for Leo. We moved on to Halloween at Toyama Techno Hall. 575 folks showed up at a small building right there, and Toyama's not the biggest city in the world either. And we had another house show there, and Yo and Musashi defeated Taguchi in the DKC. Taguchi was put in the Paradise Lock with his pants down for a lot of it, and so it was that kind of match. So moving on. LIJ got a win over Just Five Guys. So we're talking about some of these things where the favorites are beating the underdogs here and just kind of getting themselves
getting
into position for the big schmaz they had on today's show. The Jet Setters defeated the Mighty Don't Kneel. Again, similar to some of those others, like Fujita, they're just not ready to pull the trigger on them yet. There's still time. They have other stories to tell first. So while Fujita wrestles very, very well and Robbie Eagles is very good, and this is a fun team, they're not going to pick up the wins this year.
It's not their time.
It's not their time yet. We also had the House of Torture, whose time it is apparently. And of course it makes sense. It was a big angle that Kanemaru broke away, and it was presented as a big angle. And so they are getting the push. They defeated the Bullet Club. Now, this match is worth spending a little bit of time on, Jeremy, because
really?
Yeah, here's why. I'm just saying this. I have wondered for a long time, which is the bigger heel faction? Like, who does the crowd dislike the most out of these two groups? Turns out House of Torture trumps them because the fans were absolutely on Connors and Moloney's side in this match. Because when they started doing all the House of Torture baloney right after the ref bump, Ghetto showed up and stopped Dick Togo from interfering, and the crowd was into it. They were cheering for Connors and Moloney over Sho and Kanemaru. That's just kind of what I was curious about. It looks like, as far as fan opinion goes, House of Torture is the one that's further on the heel side, even than the War Dogs. And anyway, it ended up being a win for House of Torture as they managed to cheat their way to the victory despite Ghetto trying to help out. But low blow on Connors in the cradle right there. But that was the part I thought was interesting, is that House of Torture actually gets booed over Bullet Club.
Kanemaru's been doing this a long time. He's been healing it up a long time.
And Sho's doing his part.
You're going to have to get up a lot earlier in the morning to get one over on old Nobu.
And Sho has actually been really good in this as far as the heel tactics go. And he's taken to it. It's not my favorite stuff in the world. And we're going to see, especially on today's show, that not all of it works. And
it makes no sense to have Bullet Club go into the finals when you have two other teams that are eventually facing them.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the booking. I'm just talking about how sometimes the ref bump and interference thing is not something New Japan does well. Even though they do it almost every night, they still haven't figured out how to do it well. And so we're going to get into some of that later.
Okay.
And then the main event there was Catch 2-2 against Wato and Desperado. Very crisp match. And the key moment was when Desperado shoved Wato out of the way of the running double knees from Catch 2-2 and took the bullet for his partner. Now he's sacrificing himself for young Wato. It just brings a tear to your eye. And
stronger than ever, my friend.
But seriously, one of the best storylines on this tour has been seeing Wato and Desperado start to come through for each other. It's actually been very satisfying in a storytelling sense, the way they've done it. Just see these guys come through for each other and start.
Oh, it's been my favorite thing about the whole tournament.
Double knees, and this is a cool finish, by the way. They came up with a cool finish for this one. They tried the double knees on Wato. He ducked. But instead of crashing into each other, TJP caught Akira, spun him around, Irish whipped him back into Wato for a Meteora. Then, as Wato was selling that, they set up for the double knees and hit him again. Nice. Liked it.
Catch 2-2 are very good at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Dunstan does say that I just can't watch House of Torture when Show is in this form. Well, there you go. I guess they're over his heels with Dunstan, at least right there. But maybe in the go away sense for Dunstan more than it is for the classic heel sense. We moved on to Ishikawa. This one had a huge crowd, 1,500 people. And we had more folks back too from Las Vegas. So we started to see some of the people that were at Fighting Spirit Unleashed back on the card. Including, HENARE was back there, and we started seeing, who else did we see? Tsuji was there, although Tsuji wasn't in Las Vegas. He rejoined the tour, and because Hiromu was back from Las Vegas, Ishimori came on. So we started seeing some more preview-type matches for Power Struggle.
Yeah.
And we'll move on here. Again, some of these matches were just setting things up so that everybody that was important would be in contention for the last day. So Bullet Club beat Taguchi and DKC. Titan and Bushi got a win over Eagles and Fujita. Pretty good match. But again, just a way to get everybody into position. And then the Jet Setters defeated Yo and Musashi. And at this point, really, I think about this. Not only that, Kevin Knight got a lot of the pins.
Yes.
For Kushida and Knight. So it wasn't that he was Kushida's buddy over here. It was Knight that was hitting that huge DDT where he springs way over the guy's head and swings him under for this devastating DDT. That was their finisher. And so whereas last year, Knight was literally a young lion in all black and all that, this year, Kevin Knight is getting wins and scoring 10 points in the group stage of the tournament.
There's a lot of people talking about, DKC with his karate chops and all that. Very quietly, Kevin Knight is doing quality work night in, night out with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And, we're talking about Leo Rush and a couple of these other guys. Kevin Knight is going to be huge in pro wrestling. He's going to be a huge star.
The secret's already getting out. Remember, he's been booked by CMLL. He's turned up in Ring of Honor. And he's a major part of New Japan now. People are starting to figure out that this is a guy that he can talk, he can work, he can sell. He basically does everything you'd want him to do. And he's very young. So very young in his career. And Dunstan says the junior tag is better than the heavyweight tag at the moment. Might be. And for most of the year, absolutely correct.
It all went off the rails when Aussie Open gave up the titles.
We have some new teams, though, that I am excited about seeing for World Tag League. So hopefully 2024 is a bit of a renewal for that heavyweight tag team.
Ren and Shota. Let's do it.
I'm still hoping for Tsuji and Shingo in a lot of ways there, too.
Oh, I think it would be great. I just,
No, I agree with you.
I got some ideas here, and we'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay. So, yeah, moving on to Ishikawa. Now we got into the matches that are a little bit more competitive, where Desperado and Wato they defeated just 5 guys. Again, that gets them into position. So that wasn't the one I was talking about. Although this was a hell of a good match, by the way.
Yes.
And Taka has been very good in this tour. He's been wrestling well. And, of course, he's doing most of the jobs for that team, as he should. And that's his gig in New Japan right there. But his matches have not been half-assed at all. He's still really, really good. And this gave them 12 points for Desperado and Wato going into the final day. And Jeremy, what was interesting to me, there are a couple of tropes, and this is a good example, a couple of tropes we saw that a lot during this tournament. The finishing sequence in which one guy hits either a tope suicida or a tope con hilo on one guy, thus leaving the other two to do the finish. It seemed like that happened every other match, where it was just some big dive to the outside, leaving the two in the ring, and then they finished it about a minute later. They didn't really think of other ways to get to it than that.
There's the sacrifice trope where one sacrificed himself for the other. The ref bump happened quite a bit, and then the two to the outside kind of deal definitely also happened. It looked great. Enjoyed it a lot of times when it happened. It definitely happened a lot.
Now, and then the other one that I wanted to mention is, okay, if we could do a little bit less with the double submission spot. Because so many times one guy would get a guy into submission, his partner would come in to save him, the other guy would come in, and there would be a double submission. And it would just be like that. And I can deal with it sometimes, but my God, I felt like it happened in 3 out of 4 matches in this tour.
We got a triple submission today.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. All right. That was a variation on it. That's good for them. Yeah. Anyway, so a few patterns, let's just say, made themselves.
They leaned into it, you could say.
Part of it is because I watched all of these shows in a 2-day period when I came back from Las Vegas.
You did that part of yourself, and no, what am I gonna? And you don't get to put that on all of us.
I'm out there in Las Vegas. I'm not going to sit there and watch it. I mean, I watched
in Japanese, no less. You're watching all of these in Japanese when you're getting whatever moment that you get. Don't put that energy about how you watched it on us, my friend.
All right, we have one more match to talk about from this show, and then we're going into the final night of group action there. So, did you have a scorecard for going into today, or do you only have it after today?
I do have a scorecard going into the final day.
Okay, so after this, let's bring that up and let's talk about the situation we found ourselves in going into today's show in Osaka. The final match, though, from the show in Ishikawa was Catch 2-2 defeating the House of Torture. Key moment here, again, getting everybody into a big bunch. And they worked TJP's neck hard. They worked very evenly until Show hit a shock arrow on TJP. Again, impact on the neck. Akira broke that up. There was the ref bump. There was the House of Torture attack from Yujiro and Togo and Evil. Akira managed to take them out. And then, because everyone was back from Las Vegas, you had HENARE, Callum Newman, Great Okan, Empire guys come in and run those guys off. Show missed a wrench shot. TJP ducked the whiskey blast. Show ended up taking that in the face. TJP rolled them up to win. So that put Catch 2-2 in a spot where they could contend on the last day. And House of Torture got in a post-match attack to weaken TJP's neck, since the rest of House of Torture and the rest of United Empire had scattered to the four winds, brawling. So they managed to get in a little weakness, but all of that's going to play into the final day. And so we had Catch 2-2 winning the main event over House of Torture going into Osaka. So where's that scorecard?
All right. Scorecard. Get this going.
I want to have this in context. There we go. So going into the final night of group action, we had so the leaders in the clubhouse were Desperado and Master Wato with 12 points. We also had Kushida and Kevin Knight, Teton and Bushi, TJP and Akira, Connors and Moloney, Sho and Kanemaru, all on 10. So well done, Ghetto, for coming up with this one and putting everybody into position. And, of course, we had Yo and Musashi with 6, Taguchi and DKC 4, Doki and Takamichinoku with 2, Fujita and Eagles with 6. Those were the folks that had been eliminated going into the last day. But
half a dozen teams still alive going into the last night.
6 out of 10 alive going into the last night. And none of the finishes, I thought, felt like a big stretch. I thought that the upsets they had were ones that were possible. I didn't feel like he had to stretch too far to get them. So, Ghetto, this has been a year where it's been up and down on the booking. It hasn't been his greatest year as the New Japan booker, but I thought that this was a well-done tournament.
This show was a brisk, 2.5 hours long. So when I saw the clock on that, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we're moving.
We knew some matches weren't going the distance on this one.
No, and we found that out quickly. So they were back at Osaka Edion Arena today. Walker Stewart live in Japan for the first time with Chris Charlton. That was cool. Got to see that. And I think it was a smart move to do that before Power Struggle, Jeremy. Get a show in that wasn't a major pay-per-view before doing that biggie there. So, and it mostly worked pretty well together, I got to say. So,
could I throw in some thoughts on that Okada match before we get underway on the Super Junior finals?
Yeah, because I do have a couple of things to mention in the undercard. So go ahead and talk about the Okada. That was Evil, Yujiro, and Dick Togo against our never openweight 6-man tag team champions, Okada, Ishii, and Tanahashi. Go ahead.
If you've ever wanted the energy of the adults in the room coming back and setting the teenager straight, this was this match. It was Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii all back together coming in, and the House of Torture bullshit, they weren't having any of it. They ran through these guys, pillar to post, all the stuff that they've been pulling throughout this entire tour. You almost feel like you were rewarded. They were punished, by the end of it, they were all three submitting to relative submission holds. Tanahashi had, I believe, Togo in the middle of the ring. Ishii had Yujiro, and Okada had Evil all in various locks. They were all tapping, whimpering. This was your payoff to the House of Torture bullshit for the majority of this thing, was Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii beating their asses. It's not for everybody, but it was, in fact, a little bit of fun if you think about it like that.
I suppose so. And of course, they would end up coming into play a little later on in the night as well. So it was okay to put over the guys strong here, since House of Torture would be back. And also, what we couldn't have were any previews, because Zach and TMDK, the heavyweight version, were not on the tour. So in this one, Zack Sabre Jr. was up in the balcony taunting Okada, Ishii, and Tanahashi to try to put a little bit of steam on the never openweight 6-man match at Power Struggle. So at least they did something with that. Hiromu was still carrying around that 24/7 title from DDT that we mentioned last week. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of attempts at it on the stage in Las Vegas, which was kind of funny because a lot of the people in the crowd did not know what the hell that was. They didn't know what the other belt was. They knew what the NJPW one. So I was telling people that, oh, it's a DDT title. It's a 24/7 thing. Because a lot of people were like, why is this happening? Why are people rolling him up? Why is there, what is, anyway. But yeah, Nakashima took a shot at it as well here today, but didn't quite get it. Hiromu, although apparently he is a 2-time champion because he lost it to a yellow cell phone, but got it back in Las Vegas. Again.
Yes, he fell asleep and the cell phone pinned him, and then the referee won the title off the cell phone, and then he won the title off the referee. I'm not making a word of this up.
No, we're not. And again, DDT is a cross between a wrestling organization and a parody of such. So
shenanigans.
Yes, and let's see. And Ishimori pinned Hiromu during the backstage comments after the show, according to Brad. I have not had a chance to see that yet. Oh, there you go. And yeah, that's true.
Dunstan makes some heat on this feud.
Dunstan makes a good point there. He says Paranoid Hiromu was a lot of fun, and that is like Hiromu does make it a good time because he's just spinning around, looking over his shoulder with that cartoon face of his, and it has been a little bit enjoyable, though I'm sure it'll come to an end fairly soon. Yeah. Let's see. Will Ospreay was in the next match there, and he came out with the 2 different title belts. Now that was something we had not seen yet. Now the UK and US title are represented by 2 different belts. So what the hell's going on here?
Honestly, I think he's just he's giving Shota what he wants, but we're not going to find anything out until Power Struggle, because we need to figure out what's going on with Moxley and Ospreay when this is happening. Is this going to happen at Lone Star Shootout? Is this going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom? There's a whole lot of ambiguity here. Are they putting one title on the line and leaving the other title alone? I don't think we know anything, but the fact that they are so clearly making sure that both titles are there and present is clearly deliberate. I just don't know what it means. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm very curious as well. And of course, we know that, there was a lot of, for Lone Star Shootout, we don't have yet. And that's got to be for kayfabe reasons. I'm sure they have the card figured out, of course. But, I think the Power Struggle, a lot of that is going to become a little more clear for us. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do with it. It seems odd to break those titles up and have yet more belts. I kind of get the idea that's not how it's going to go, but we'll have to find out.
I think it makes sense to me if this is what makes the title feud seem different than it was a year ago when Will had the same belt and they're feuding for the same thing. So if you have 2 different belts and Shota's like, hey, I want to challenge you for both of these belts, it makes it different than last year, even if the outcome may end up being the same and Will beats him again.
By the way, that match was Shota Umino, Ren Narita, Oscar Loibe, and Bolton Oleg against Ospreay, Okan, Newman, and Cobb. And with 2 young lions on his team, Umino got the win with that the Blaze Blade on Callum Newman. So that was a win column for Loibe and Bolton, and just another message where he stared down Ospreay as he got the victory. So that was an interesting little
leadership positioning.
Yeah, there you go. So after that, we went back to Super Junior Tag League. Now, the first match was between two teams that were eliminated, Doki and Taka and DKC and Taguchi. They hit the suplex De La K to even things up. So in the end, both those teams had their 4 points there. So
I have to say, there was a point when Rocker Stewart said, and maybe we'll see some DKC fire sometime in this match. And without even a moment's notice, the DKC started doing DKC fire. I started laughing. Chris Charlton was quiet for a second, and it was just like, seems like you've been doing your research.
Seems like it. Yeah, he's calling spots already. He's in his first show. He's calling first show in Japan. He's calling spots.
You got to give a guy credit when something like that happens. It's just like, if you're gonna call him on the stuff that he misses, like there's stuff that he hit hard, and he hit it at exactly the right time.
Yo and Musashi took on Bushi and Teton. Now Lij needed a win to stay involved, and all of Lij came out with them right there. Yo and Musashi finally stopped that stupid rope walking spot they do, where Teton and Bushi go and walk along the ropes while holding on to the guy. It's a stupid spot. I hate the rope walking spots. And finally, Musashi and all that, they just kick the goddamn rope. Of course you do. It's right there. Like every time I see this stupid rope walking shit, I'm just like, why don't you just kick the rope? It's right there. And what's really, of course, happening is they're holding the guy up and all this kind of crap. And it's anyway. I pop for that.
Money on Snake Eyes in Vegas or something.
Oh my Lord! I was just relieved that somebody just ended that. I would love if that move, just whatever is in people's brains to do the rope walking spot, just flick it out of their brains and just take that out of the business. Musashi countered Angel Immortale, and then the double super kick. They hit a double super kick, and then Yo hits DMV. Musashi got a big splash on Bushi. Yo hit the direct drive for 3, so a huge rally for Yo and Musashi at the end of this one, and it ended up eliminating Lij. So it was getting crowded up on top, and they even joked that there was mathematically a way for there to be a 5-way tie in that one with tiebreakers and things. So some people had to go, and this was one of them. Musashi did look good in the final match of his tour right there, and there it is.
You know what else died when they lost this match, Steven Conway? My dream of an all Lij roll call with all the titles. I was like,
not necessarily.
Well, okay.
Not necessarily. And I'm going to talk about this. The winner of the Super Junior Tag League does not necessarily get its shot in the Dome. And I think that there is a point that was made on this show before that there might end up being a 4-way on that Tokyo Dome show. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Yeah,
there are definitely 4 teams that I would like to see in that.
Yeah, and also just some aesthetic comments here that I think Brad says the new match renders are really great, and Dunstan mentions that they must have a new editor or something because the poster Power Struggle looks good. So people enjoying some of the art.
We had a celebration moment about this last week where I was going raving about this. So yeah, guys, these renders are awesome. Show with his hands over his mouth made me laugh my ass off.
Fujita and Eagles were up next against Connors and Moloney, and this was the one that really jump-started things because Fujita hit a quick tope con hilo on him. Moloney ended up in a Ron Miller special early, so you started to have the feeling that when the match opens with the big moves, that, okay, we're doing something quick here. This is going to be a flash ending. Fujita grabbed a double wrist lock, so that was an early false finish they did there with the finish, with the double submission. The War Dogs must have a win and a catch-22 victory in order to advance. That's just how everything worked, but didn't have to worry about that. At one point, by the way, Connors trucked Kosei Fujita right off the apron. Like, instead of spearing him, just smashed right into him. And he flew all the way over the mats into the Young Lions, who, thank God they were there. They just happened to be in the right spot to catch him. Thank goodness. And then Eagles comes out of an early Drilla-Killa attempt from Moloney and hit, basically was a Kuma roll. If you watch Stardom, it's Koguma's finisher, but rolls him up and gets the win, and the War Dogs are out. And this was only a couple of minutes.
This was also delightful. It's one of those matches that if you are going through and wanting to watch like fun, quick match. One of the tournament highlights is definitely this one.
And what that set up was essentially a semifinals and finals situation. So the way it worked was the final two matches were going to determine the finals. Whoever won these last two were going to go on to the finals on Saturday. So we were basically into the semis at that point as everybody else.
Both of them ended up being what, winner go home?
Yeah. Everything ended up being eliminated. So these were the last ones. And it was TJP and Akira against Kushida and Kevin Knight. And the question was, of course, could the United Empire come through with all the injuries? There was one spot over here. Knight threw a Fosbury flop type of jump over the top rope to catch 2-2 on the outside and overshot everyone and basically just jumped over the top rope and back bumped. Not a thing there to catch him. And amazingly,
I was just like, how are you so amazing? Like, it's not great, not a good look, but at the same time, you're like, holy shit.
Not even on the mat, Jeremy. He overshot the mat, let alone the two wrestlers right there. Still landed there and took it. That's just incredible.
That's a lot of adrenaline.
Oh my God. Oh, I'll bet he got out. Later on, he got up to leave the building, was like, oh yeah. But TJP, again, cannot hold Knight up for the Leaning Tower. And Kushida went crazy with the shotes, those little palm thrusts. That's a sumo move, by the way, is a shote. And Liger used it all the time, too. He did manage to hit the Shane O'Mac dropkick, even after taking that Fosbury flop on the outside. He hit the dropkick from one turnbuckle all the way to the other, and he made it. There was a sky high for Kevin Knight on Akira that looked great, but that only got a 2 count. The culture clash, which is that breakdancing move where they grab each other's ankles and roll across the ring, that was broken up by Akira, who super kicked Knight out of it. He hit the speed fire to Kushida and then the double knees, the knee, for the 3 count. So catch 22 overcomes the damage and the injuries that had accrued on them over the course of the tournament. They defeat Kevin Knight and Kushida on the last night, and they get into the finals. This was a brisk match that really told a good story.
The big babyface TJP overcoming the Og. What a story in the Super Junior Tag Leagues.
Sho and Kanemaru took on Desperado and Wato in the final match of the night. Boy, there was just heartbreak for us here. Wato's from Osaka, for the love of God. House of Torture came out early to interfere in this one. Wato had a big rally, including a big dive and a springboard uppercut. Kanemaru started working Wato's legs to weaken him. And anyway, the ref at some point, Sho went for a shock arrow at about the 15-minute mark. It was pretty even up to then. Just a bit of back and forth match with some House of Torture interference. Desperado hit a Guitar Day on Hell. Sho went for the shock arrow with 15-minute mark. Desperado backdropped out of it. The ref was distracted. Sho got the wrench. Wato stopped him and had a big rally. Wato sent Sho into Evil, who had popped up on the apron, and he hit the big German. Here's the issue. Sho did not kick out of this.
No.
No one grabbed Red Shoe's boot. And, but it's not the finish, right? So Red Shoes just stops for absolutely no reason, just pulls a Paul Turner without the concussion issue. This is the disastrous AEW refereeing crew seems to have infected New Japan, where Red Shoes knew it wasn't the finish and he just stopped. No one grabbed his ankle. I guess someone was supposed to, right? Because he kind of reacted.
I don't know, but it was one of those I thought, I'm like, that's not right. And I was like, all right, just ignore it and move on.
That's why New Japan's not good at this stuff. It's a straightforward, closer to a sports-based booking system than anybody else does. And this whole interference and ref bumps and grabbing the ref and pulling him out of the ring, it doesn't make sense half the time. And
it was also when I kind of knew that Sho and Kanemaru were winning this.
Yeah, exactly. So it gave away the whole thing. It's just poorly done. They ended up hitting Recieptamente on, and then Evil pulled him out, which I think was supposed to happen because when he went to do the 3 count on Sho, he twisted around like he was expecting someone to be pulling his leg that wasn't there. So, anyway, when Red Shoes was pulled out, House Torture descended, beat him down. Evil hit Everything Is Evil on Wato, and anyway, it all ends up with they throw Sho on top of Wato after Everything Is Evil. Red Shoes counts the 3. unfortunately, a really, really bad flat ending to what had been a really strong tournament. It didn't ruin the tournament. It was still a really good Super Junior Tag League, but this was AEW levels of referee buffoonery. And I hate to see that from Red Shoes when he does something as god-awful as that, but this was tough and really shouldn't have happened.
I came away from the ending of the tournament being like, they've had better tournaments. And it wasn't like bad. There were things about it. The Desperado stuff, Bushi and Teton were particular highlights. Some of these matches were just fantastic.
They were good matches.
But it wasn't like, the tournament didn't set my world on fire. If someone was like, hey, should I check this out? I'm like, yeah, there's some matches here or there, but I can't say that you should drop 20 hours of your life to watch this tournament. Like, I just can't.
I thought there were enough good matches. I thought there were enough good matches that if you go back each night and watch the semifinals and the finals,
sure,
you'll really enjoy a lot of it. And there are other things in there.
10 hours of a 20-hour tournament kind of thing.
But the other stuff wasn't bad. I disagree. I liked it. I liked it.
No, they've had better tournaments, and I feel like it would be disingenuous and a bit of a cheerleader mentality to say, like, oh, this was like top-notch grade A stuff. It was really good. But it wasn't. There were things about it that was just like going in the direction of Sho and Kanemaru. I don't know. Just I felt like they could have really popped with like the finale of it, and it ended flat enough for it to actually leave a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, Dunstan agrees with you. He says they should have pulled an audible and just had Desperado in the finals. I don't understand why Ghetto hates money and fun. So
I think it has more to do with the idea that Ren and Shota is kind of where they're focused on and putting them in a position of the odd couple that succeeds, and you can't do it with both. It makes sense, but I really enjoy the team of Desperado and Master.
Yeah, and Dunstan thinks that there are enough good matches that the tournament could be considered a success. Perhaps it's recency bias, but at the moment right now, I'd have to go back and look at my notes. But I enjoyed this a little bit more than I did Super Junior. Right. A little bit more. But again, that could be recency bias, to be fair. It's not like I'm sitting there like comparing match by match. So
we don't have a whole lot of match cards. I presume tonight around 7 p.m. Pacific time. 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern. New Japan will release the official match announcements for Power Struggle beyond what we already know, which is Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii versus the Mighty Don't Kneel, Zack Sabre Jr., Mikey Nicholls, Shane Haste. And we got Sonata and Yuya Uemura versus Naito and Yota Tsuji. And then we got Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori. And then we got a bunch of matches for Lone Star Shootout.
Yeah, well, what we have here, hold on, before we have, like you said, the junior heavyweight title match, Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori. We have Shota Umino and Will Ospreay for the US-UK title. We have the special challenge match between Great O'Khan and John Moxley, who's heading to Osaka. Tonga Loa against David Finlay in a special challenge match. 30-minute time limit match between Tsuji and Naito against Uemura and Sonata. So either that's going to be another draw between these teams, or they're going to run some kind of angle where someone gets a victory to give them some momentum. You talked about the never open weight 6-man match. There's also going to be a Frontier Zone match. And we know it is Mochizuki Jr., Yoshiki Kato, and Strong Machine J from the independent promotions around Japan against 3 as of yet unnamed New Japan stars. So, yeah. And Dunstan says that he enjoyed this one a little bit more than the New Japan Cup. So, yeah, again, that could be, it's to your own taste and things. I know that, Jeremy, you locked in on Desperado and were really enjoying that. So to see them get tripped up at the line by a team that you don't care to see is a frustrating one. So I do understand that. And Brad has a comment about Power Struggle. He says it's interesting that Finlay is so low on the card against Tonga Loa. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that. It kind of feels like an angle alert.
Yep.
I don't know why this match is there. You could just have David Finlay get a victory, which I think everybody in the world expects, right? And you could. But what does Finlay have to do with the Tokyo Dome? He's the leader of Bullet Club. He's going to be involved in something. It's always important to them. It feels like an angle alert. Like maybe somebody challenges him after he beats Tonga Loa, or someone saves Tonga Loa from something or other. this thing just feels like there's more to it than this match, doesn't it?
I think they're cutting up something for Lone Star Shootout. Finley's advertised for that show, and it could end up being like a 6-man, War Dogs versus those guys, and this is kind of building into that. That's kind of where I'm thinking. It's like once we get through the middle of November, I think everything's gonna be a lot more clear.
Okay. All right. Well, what do we have for Lone Star Shootout? Because that's what we're going to be talking about and previewing next week. So let's bring that up here. I'm excited about this one. I'm going to see one of the greatest female workers of all time there, Mayu Iwatani, against Stephanie Vaquer. I'll get that there so you can see it. And so that one's going to be terrific. Excited about that one. And of course, we're going to break this card down big time next week. This is going to be the main talk. Kingston against Satoshi Kojima. A lot of title matches, boy. A lot of title matches in Texas. Zack Sabre Jr. against Mike Bailey. That one kind of came out of nowhere, and there's no way this is anything but a blast, right?
No, frankly, this card blew my expectations out of the water.
Mistico and TJP in the special singles. Cool.
Sure.
Shingo Takagi against Trent Beretta. Okay.
Was not on my 2023 card, but sure, why not?
How about Shingo, by the way, going to Las Vegas, back to Japan for a little while, bouncing back to Texas? The man's going to get some frequent flyer miles in.
The man is a professional.
ELP and Hikuleo against Nelson and Isaacs. This is good. This is going to be a good one.
This is going to slap, and they're going to slap each other hard.
All right.
Here you go. Here you go.
Well, thankfully, maybe I'll head back to the merch stand.
I had to get it off the full screen just for you, so it wasn't completely in your face.
Eddie Kingston and Kojima, of course, too. I think
this is going to be a fun card. I'm actually really looking forward to it. This is not going to be a big deal. Like, we're making a mountain out of a molehill with this Toru Yano, Joey Janela.
Right. It just annoys me that he's on there, but it'll be fine. It's one night. Again, wrestling is supposed to be a variety show. You don't have to like every single act there. And Dunstan says, I'm calling it match of the night. You heard it here first. Mayu versus Stephanie as his match of the night. On a show with Bailey versus Zach. That's ambitious, but possible. I mean, Mayu is great with a capital G. So, one of the very best. And I'm thrilled about this. I was shooting messages back and forth with Scott Edwards, who, 5-star Joshi show here on the network, who I think is truly one of the best minds on Joshi wrestling in the world. And the one thing I said to him is I didn't get a chance to see Manami Toyota. I just never did. I never got a chance to see Akira Okudo. I never got a chance to see the Crush Gals. I did see Bull Nakano. But I never got a chance to see Toyota, but I get a chance to see Iwatani. And this really means a lot to me as somebody who's been watching this stuff for 30 years, Joshi for 30 years, wrestling for 40 years or so. And that I'm going to get a chance to see somebody who's going to end up on that as one of the greatest ever. So I'm anxious for that show. I'm looking forward to it. And Brad said, is that a TV title match? I believe it is, isn't it?
One full 15-minute time limit, New Japan World TV Championship.
Full speed ahead, kids. Yeah, full speed ahead.
All right, where we can find you on the social, Steven Conway?
Well, you can find me right here on Fight Game Media Network on this show here. And one thing I wanted to mention before we go on this is I don't use X that much. It's a cesspool. But what we have is make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend. Boy, that helps. Anything, write us a review. All of these things matter. And we want to say big thank you to everyone who's already done it. But if you haven't, whether you're listening on the podcast or here on the YouTube, all that stuff, the likes, the subscribes,
even if you want to give me a 4-star instead of 5, because you think I could do better, I get it.
We do understand. But either way, it helps get word out about the show, and that's really what we want. So, we just want to bring this to more people as best we can. And, especially because the hardcores here that are with us each and every week, we love doing the show for you guys, and we will continue to do the show for you guys. And, if you like this, then, if you have a New Japan curious friend, let them know about us.
What time are we coming back on Saturday, Steven?
6 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be 3 Pacific, and we will, we'll do it again. So we're doing.
This is ambitious on my part, but I love you guys, and we're going to make this happen.
6 p.m. Eastern time, correct, Jeremy?
Yes, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I did the math in my head. I'm like, maybe that's a little too early, but no, we're going to do it. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I've already. People have listened 45 minutes ago and tuned out. we're locked in. This is it.
For Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. Thanks for listening to a very busy episode of Speaking of Strong Style. We're looking forward to being back Saturday. We'll talk to you again very soon.